On a summer day in 2016, I took one of the most fascinating tours of my life. A tour of the nuclear site at Chernobyl, Ukraine, and in particular the blown nuclear reactor number 4 that occurred on April 26, 1986. This explosion resulted in the direct deaths of 31 men, and as of 2011, 15 more men died, indirectly from radioactive sickness. Many more are in poor health. Also, I toured the nearby ruined town of Pripyet. I find it astounding that 30 years after the world's worst nuclear disaster, plant and animal life flourishes here. Incredibly, there is an Orthodox church, St. Elias, or St. Elijah Church, where despite the radioactivity that surrounds this area, weddings still take place. The priest of this church lives in a house a stone's throw away. We take a quick look at this church in the film. Definitely one for Ripley's Believe It or Not. Also in this video, walking among the ruins of the town of Pripyat, close to Chernobyl, we visit the broken, abandoned buildings, including a kindergarten, a sports complex, a department store, a children's amusement park, a football stadium, a palace of culture, a restaurant, cafeteria, an early warning radar system to prevent a possible NATO attack, and a giant statue of Lenin. On November the 29th, 2016, 3.5 months after I visited Chernobyl, the roof of the blown reactor number 4 was finally and properly sealed with a new, safe confinement dome in a magnificent feat of engineering. And just imagine if Chernobyl nuclear reactor number 4 had blown a second time, and it came close to that, half of Europe would have been gone. Even today, guides tell you not to kneel in the radioactive grass. So, please enjoy this somber and disturbing video, filmed on an appropriately gloomy day of August the 7th, 2016. Here is the film of the radioactive clouds spreading all over Europe.
Exclusion zone and closer to the MPP. This is 1993 when the author filmed it. And this is how it looks like. And it is pulled afterward. This video. This is the shelter of 1986.
The radioactive cloud eventually reached Canada and the United States, but fortunately it was harmless by then.
That was built in 1970. This is when they started building the NPP. And simultaneously with the NPP, the town was being built. That today looks like a ghost town. But before the disaster, the city was a dream of some Soviet people to live in. So, young people, experts and professionals, as far as...
So here is the entrance to Chernobyl.
Reactor number 4. It has
We are now in the
now other rules
30-mile exclusion zone.
Well, the different ways of getting contaminated in the zone. So obviously you're not allowed to eat anything which grows in the zone or drink from open sources. I kind of always assumed that was just...
This is the church of Saint Elia, and we're deep inside the exclusion zone now. And believe it or not, people, this is still functioning, this church. And there are still people that actually get married here. And over here is the a church, Chernobyl Museum. And to the right of the church is this house where the priest lives when he's not working. And at this stop in the exclusion zone we see one of the very few statues of Lenin still standing. The vast majority, of course, the Ukrainians have destroyed. And now we're at another stop in the exclusion zone. And here in Ukrainian we see the names of the 186 villages that were abandoned in Ukraine and Belarus because of the nuclear accident. And I wish to make a correction. We're in the 30-kilometer exclusion zone, not 30-mile exclusion zone. 30-kilometer. This is the monument dedicated to all the firemen who were the second on the scene after the nuclear explosion at nuclear reactor number 4. And the first workers on this, of course, were the employees themselves. And this was built by private individuals, this monument. And today, all these heroes, the firemen, most are dead, and the few that are still alive from radioactive poisoning, and the few that are still alive have all sorts of illnesses because of the radioactive exposure to the radiation. I should mention, if I haven't already, we're deep inside the 10-kilometer exclusion zone now, so we're getting close. This is a monument to World War II soldiers that were killed and who had lived in this area. And the sign over here says, nothing is ever forgotten.
No, you can come closer. I mean, this is the safe place.
And 1941, 1945, although the Russians conveniently forget about the first 2 years of the war when they were allied to Nazi Germany.
Okay, so here when we go to the kindergarten, try to stay in the middle on those cement plates. Normal.
This building here in the forest was heavily contaminated by radiation, and there's still some radiation here.
I mean, we come here every day, we only spend 30 seconds, but that's
We have good time there.
You can hear the...
Sorry?
We have a...
Yes, you're absolutely safe, don't worry.
Inside the abandoned building. This used to be a kindergarten.
So you see the canal which gets the water to the cooling point.
This is the lake.
And the cooling tower which
There's a cooling plant.
further to the right is the
Reactor.
building for reactors number 5 and number 6. Weird as it sounds, but even after the accident, they actually planned to install the reactor number 5. They were this close to it, but then they decided that it was too contaminated.
So there it is, there's nuclear reactor number 4 where the explosion happened on April 26, 1986. And just to the left is the second dome, because the first one, which was covering, is wearing out. That big dome there is going to be in place hopefully at the end of 2017. There's number 5, reactor number 5. And this reactor was never completed.
With you have also drone reactor?
Yes, and now this unfinished building, of course, would have housed the reactor, which was never actually brought to it. Again, that's nuclear reactor number 4 where the accident happened. So now the water in this canal is now considered safe. So now in this canal are catfish, and people are throwing treats, and the catfish are actually jumping up and getting them as they float along the water.
No, it usually only works here, so you can see several. I know the picture a little bit better on that side, but they already know this.
The catfish love those treats. Okay, this is the mythical Titan Prometheus, who supposedly gave man fire, and this statue was built actually before the nuclear accident. And these are memorials to some of the victims who were killed, first men killed. It's all Ukrainian, just some. Okay, I have to be, there it is, that's reactor number 4, which blew up on April 26, 1986. I have to be very careful because security is very strict here, and I'm not allowed to take pictures of personnel, workers, or even the fence. I'm trying to keep my camera above the barbed wire fence. And here the radioactivity is high. I'm not supposed to spend any more than 10 minutes here, well, then it'll start to become a little bit dangerous. But there's the reactor. That's really about as close as we can get. Okay, and there is the dome, the massive dome that's going to cover nuclear reactor number 4. Hopefully, there's been a number of delays, but hopefully this is going to be done by the end of 2017 and make this area a safer place.
They have special meters which show, okay, you've gotten enough for this time, you go do some other
nuclear disaster.
And then it's relatively safe.
Sorry?
And then it's relatively
Here it's not allowed even to go down on bended knee onto the grass because it's considered too risky with radiation.
When we're standing behind the hand, it goes down because concrete blocks radiation.
But nevertheless we can hear the...
Well, like this, yes, but if this monument, it blocks some radiation.
Right.
If I put Geiger counter on its base, it will only be 1.3. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Like.
So there we are.
Give it 10 seconds.
That's what would you call that machine?
Geiger counter.
It is like, oh, okay. Geiger's one. Okay, yeah, it's quite effective at blocking it. The radioactive. Now this here is the sign of Pripyat in 1970 when the town was founded. And here we see some of the dead trees. You can see them in the distance. They were killed by the radiation. And our guide doesn't want us walking into the grass. Still a bit contaminated. Ruined building in the forest. This building is located in what used to be the town of Pripyat. Some 50,000 people used to live here. Now it's all overgrown with
Well, you can also go
bushes and trees and so on. Used to be a gym. So yes, this building I'm filming used to be a gymnasium, and they had a really...
It was not a gymnasium. No, it was not a gymnasium. It was just a sport complex.
A sports complex, okay, yes. All right. And this used to be... This is I think probably the biggest swimming pool I've ever seen, what used to be. So I'm on the upper level of the swimming pool, and the water that used to fill this pool came from the cooling reactor. The water used for the cooling to cool the reactor. Now we're entering a school. Here are black and white paintings of good old Lenin. And in the next room, books scattered all over the floor.
walking on books is something that I've rarely done, if ever.
Well, they're communist books, so...
That's the book.
well, some of them anyway.
So these are propaganda books.
So this says aggressive deeds of Western imperialists and their supporters. It looks like Vietnam.
Doesn't say Western there.
Okay.
They mean it, but well, if you look here, you see the NATO.
Yeah. Well, that's Western. So many books thrown on the ground. So many books. Abandoned. Yeah. And this used to be a classroom. And just outside, part of a gas mask lying on the floor. Gas masks all over the place here. A gloomy day, cloudy day. Really, I think a perfect day to visit a place like Chernobyl and Pripyat. And this used to be what we would call a department store. And this used to be the entrance to the stadium. Oh. You can hear the radioactivity in this moss.
You can hear it living or dying.
So this used to be a stadium, and the football field used to be over there, all overgrown already with trees and bushes and even wild boars around here. A lot of things can happen in 30 years. So things can fall into ruin quickly. Life after man, so to speak. Pleasant walk through the forest. It's amazing how quickly, as I say, that things can be overgrown. This children's amusement park was only used for one day. It was supposed to open officially on May the 1st, 1986, but they opened it on April the 26th. A few days before that, to get the children's attention away from the fire that was burning at the nuclear reactor. It was only open one day, in use one day, before everyone was evacuated.
learn. But the funny thing here is this box for voting. You know, in Soviet times there was actual election. There was just one name, so you put cross and throw it.
This is the Palace of Culture, what's left of it, and we've entered it by the backstage. Main part of the building. Stage. This probably was once a stage. So this used to be a grocery store, and this used to be a restaurant. And we're inside the grocery store, or I would say supermarket. New shopping carriages over there. And we're inside the restaurant. Now I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but the building way in the background has a hammer and sickle on it, and apparently those were apartment buildings. It's quite a long distance away.
Boats would go from there. You may go down there and take pictures of the river, but there are
Further down?
boats left. There's only one.
These are ruined vending machines
We'll go and see the stained
or drinks. And just a stone's throw away from the vending machines is the river Pripyet. Nobody comes here anymore. The abandoned dock. And by the river, this part of the building used to be the cafeteria.
Hey guys, hope you don't mind going into a window.
You can hear the Geiger counters going off as we make our way out of the exclusion zone. Lots of radioactivity in this part. Propaganda poster and another propaganda poster.
What? We're taking more.
This is the ruins of an early warning tower. Absolutely huge. All ruined now. This is a sign.
I'm gonna have my wife do it because she's a better photographer.
Okay.
We're still in the exclusion zone, and this sign says Chernobyl.
Are you gonna get in the picture?
That's what you're thinking.
Another World War II memorial.
She's gonna laugh.
Okay, and we're now heading back